This episode of Spectre Sound Studios is brought to you by Spectre Digital. Check out the brand new Singularity bass library today. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're gonna have an amazing weekend. Just sitting here, got my coffee, getting ready for another round of SMG viewers comments. Just give you a little update on what's been going on. Back in Canada since my European trip, we had a close call with a tornado while I was gone. It touched down like about maybe a kilometer away from my house. Just had to get a new roof put on. Yay, that was all kinds of fun. And no, it wasn't cheap either. What else? Got to go see Monuments and Ginger in Toronto, and that was an absolute riot. Everybody was just awesome in those bands. Really cool people. Ginger in particular, Tatiana, what a performer. Wow, I was pretty blown away by the whole experience. That's for sure. If you ever get the chance to see Ginger on tour, please do, because they are fucking amazing live. They just blew my mind. Great job. Good to see it. Rock and roll is alive and well. Anyway, let's get right to it.
Not that it's the first time I've heard it, but your comment about turning off the IR modelers if using a real cab has me wondering. Is that why some people say modelers sound like shit, because they're playing through a physical cab without turning off the IR?
Yes! That is exactly why you get these Luddites saying, oh, this modeler sounds like shit. They don't understand that they're running a model of a physical cabinet into an actual physical cabinet. It's like double speakering your sound. Of course it's going to sound like shit. Hey, easy mistake to make. I did that way back when I got my first Torpedo Live, which was like the first piece of gear I ever reviewed on this show. And that's exactly what happened. I'm like, why does this sound like ass? And it's like, turns out I was running wall of sound with the cabinet IR, but the hardware Torpedo already had a cabinet going as well. As soon as I got that turned off, oh, sounds pretty awesome. So guys, especially some of you older guys who might not understand the tech, word to the wise, if you're wondering why the amp sim sounds like shit, make sure you're not running a cabinet into a cabinet. Turn one off, trust me, it's gonna sound a whole lot better.
Metal has become a meme. It's now about technical abilities, theories, and speed, not artistic expression.
Hey man, I don't know how true that is. I mean, like in the 80s, we had total wankers that everybody ignored as well. And the bands that wrote the songs, those are the ones that stood the test of time and are remembered. And this is the thing, there were a million shredders out in the 80s who I can't remember the names of, but everybody remembers Eddie Van Halen because he could write some good songs along the way too, as well as being a brilliant guitar player. Even Yngwie Malmsteen managed to write a couple of songs in there. I mean, like I'll See the Light Tonight, that's easy to remember. As for the current generation, yeah, like I said, I went to go see Ginger. Just got blown away, not only by their technical ability, but by an entertaining show. If you're struggling, try doing that. Try being entertaining. Might help your band out a whole lot. And if you still can't get people to come to your show, consider hiring somebody to front your band who's a lot less ugly than you are.
My guitar was built in the 70s. It's held up great and plays amazing. I don't know if these newer guitars will hold up the same. Interested to see how Harley Benton will hold up with little to no repair after 50 years.
The great thing about this guitar is if something goes wrong with it over the next 50 years, or if it gets stolen or something like that, I think I can afford to buy a new one.
I love how the blind test, aka using some actual science, is the Achilles heel of tube snobs.
Hey, what can I say? Two of my absolute favorite shows of all time were Penn & Teller Bullshit and Mythbusters. Now, the cool thing about Mythbusters was they showed you how they did their tests and showed you how you can isolate and eliminate variables so you can actually test the thing you're trying to test. That's the big problem a lot of tube tests online don't do, is they have numerous variables and they're not isolating just the tubes. Once you get it down to that, the amount of shifts in the tone are next to none. Very, very hard to tell. Again, you want a real shift in tone, put in a different speaker. You'll be blown away by the change. Just be sure to make recordings. All right, everybody, this video is brought to you by all of us over at Spectre Digital and our brand new plugin, Singularity. Now, your support is what helps me continue to fund the channel and give you guys the kind of reviews and tutorials that you love. It also helps us make more plugins that we think will really help you make your music production sound better and get your mixes done quicker. So we finally did it, Singularity. After years of complaining about bass players, I decided to take matters into my own hands. This is a virtual bass instrument and amp sim in one plugin. There is literally no excuse for not having incredible sounding bass on your recordings anymore. You get ultra realism and full tone shaping options, including 2 different preamps and cabinet impulses by yours truly. This one plugin is all you're gonna need. sprinklers. You finally won't need to re-record the bass parts anymore. Because if your band has a rule number 2, then Singularity is custom made just for you. Whether you're at the demo stage or at the critical stage of making an album, if your bass player just can't deliver the goods, then Singularity is going to rock your production. Links in the description below. Go grab it now.
Imagine being a big YouTube hotshot and being incapable of dialing an amp. I sold my Rectiverb because of these things.
Oh man, imagine selling your Rectiverb for a Catalyst and thinking you made the right choice. Dude, please. Hearing loss is nothing to joke around about. Get yourself tested. And that's not to rip on Line 6. You know, the Pod Go was an awesome piece of gear. It was very well priced. It was very capable. And it sounded really fucking good. And I honestly thought that the Catalyst was a step backwards because of the poor choice of impulses on there. And it just wasn't a really good recording platform. That's why I had to give it the thumbs down. I mean, like, if they want to step up their game and offer a better product, I'd be more than happy to do that. But my money is on better value in a small amp. The 6505 Plus combo with a new Mojo Tone speaker will blow the fucking doors off a Catalyst.
Great info as usual. I remember the death of radio. DJs having to play another April Wine song instead of the new Van Halen record. Nothing against April Wine, but who in the hell is listening to Could Have Been a Lady on rotation at this point?
Canadians who don't have a choice to listen to anything else but Canadian radio. Because the law says they have to play those songs.
Hey Glenn, I am not of age and I want to play some gigs. Any suggestions?
Hi River, thanks so much for chiming in. Let me give you some advice. I don't know if this will help or not. I don't know where you're located, but I mean, like, maybe if you have a band or some friends who want to play or whatnot, high school talent shows are definitely the way to go. And if it seems too far off, no, trust me, you need to practice. Another way would be, like, say, do some backyard parties or some basement parties or something like that. Kids still do that these days, I would hope. Anyway, hopefully you guys like to have a good time. They still do social gatherings, fingers crossed. Hopefully that's still happening. Another thing would be, reach out to your local community center and see about setting up a gig. You know, if you've got friends who play, you see if you can get a couple of bands together. I know they used to do that in the early 2000s in Windsor. And I mean, you know, a lot of the local hardcore bands would play at the local community center. I mean, like Unearth showed up to one of those shows once. I still talk to Ken Sushi about that gig because it was hilarious. The place was just packed to the fucking gills. That is possible to happen. You've just got to be willing to put in the work. So reach out, start making some phone calls, start sending some emails, and see who'd be willing to host your gig. There is hope. All you got to do is just ask questions. Make yourself annoying.
I just learned more about mixing in your video than 4 years of college ever taught me. Thanks.
Hey man, that's why I'm here. If you guys want to get some great info, make sure you subscribe. I've got a lot of cool tutorials coming up and some really cool guitar reviews as well. I've got some stuff coming in from Spectre and Solar and a few other brands as well. Should be an awful lot of fun. And yeah, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. It really does help the show out. Oh yeah, right. I just got an email for something for a big thing coming in to the studio. Can't give you any details yet until I find out on Tuesday if it's going to happen for sure or not. But prognosis is good. Fingers crossed. This one's going to be earth-shattering for my whole workflow anyway. We'll see how it goes.
I've been watching and learning from you for years now. Thanks for doing what you do. My 16-year-old son is getting into recording metal, so I'm actually here to link him to this video and share my love of recording metal music with him. So another thank you goes out to you for making my job as a metal dad a little easier.
Wow, Jesse, thank you so much. You know, it's so nice to get a comment like that every now and then. I mean, like, I'm so used to the hate comments I get when I, start, busting guitar myths like tubes and pickups and that kind of crap. It's nice to hear that somebody's actually getting some use out of the show. And to your son, I say, hey, welcome aboard. It's a lot of work recording metal. There's a lot to learn, but it can be really rewarding and enjoyable once in a while. So the trick is, don't quit. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's so cool your dad's supporting you as well. I really and truly wish you the best of luck with your recordings. Have fun with it.
Would love to see a video on why you don't get the same tone as YouTube videos. Any thoughts on NDSP being disappointing? Basically, I saw tons of vids on YouTube, and they sounded great. I bought Callie and Petrucci, and coming from an 11 rack, much cheaper guitar interface versus Axe effects, etc., and was disappointed. I preferred the 11R sounds. NDSP sounded thin and brittle to me. This is with good Seymour Duncan pickups, etc. What I want to know is, do they sound good in YouTube vids because they're doing some mastering or something, even when they say there's no other processing, or is it because I'm listening to a mix ready sound solo? Like your pod experience, I had a V-amp too that was hugely disappointing and thought those days were gone. Lol, NDSP plugins just don't sound anywhere near as good as my 11 rack, and even that isn't the most expensive preamp it's a bit outdated, etc., it honestly put me off buying a quad Cortex.
That's an interesting one, man. I mean, like, I've played with some of the 11 rack stuff, and I'm not that impressed, so I don't know. My thing is maybe your perspective is a little bit skewed, you know? Maybe you're so used to hearing the sound out of your 11 rack that when you hear something that's actually kind of mix ready, you're hearing, ooh, that sounds a little thin, whereas that's what it should sound like. A great way of comparison would be go check out the Bogren amp knob. Go download that. Go download the free version of that because you only got to plug in and turn it up and it sounds good. And if that sounds thin to you, that tells me your 11 rack has been skewing your perspective and you need to wean yourself off that and get used to hearing something a little bit more suited for the goal you're trying to achieve, and that's get a mix ready sound. Remember, guys, how a guitar sounds all by itself is going to be very different as opposed to how it's going to fit in a mix, and you have to make space, so therefore it might sound a little thin. I will say this, that's probably the first complaint I've ever read about the neural DSP stuff. I've gotten some great results. A lot of people have gotten some great results with it. So that one strikes me as a little bit odd. Could also be your monitoring situation as well. If you guys have some ideas, please leave a comment below. Maybe we can help the guy out.
Hey Glenn, any way you can do a comparison for internally mounted drum mics versus external? I have been trying to figure out if this is a practical solution for gigs and studio to save time and provide consistency. Anything I've read online seems to be just opinions with no factual basis.
I don't have any facts because I've never tried them. I think it's the May internal miking system like that, or something like that. Honestly, it just strikes me as a little bit weird. You might wind up getting the basketball sound because we're used to hearing the drums on the outside, and just putting a mic on the inside just seems like a really bad idea in my opinion. Of course, I haven't heard it. I'd have to test it. If anybody knows anybody who does those internal drum mic mounts, I'd be very curious in trying them out and see if they're actually worth it. Would definitely go a long way to cleaning up a snare sound, that's for sure. But here's an interesting point about that. I know none of my favorite records ever used any internal drum mics, except for maybe a kick drum. Ask yourself this, do any of your favorite records use that miking system? I'm very curious to know the answer to that one. Okay guys, gonna break in here for a sec. I've often said that there's no such thing as a stupid question, but there are plenty of stupid statements. Let me show you exhibit fucking A.
You can record one guitar, make a copy, pan one left and one right, run one through a Marshall and the other through a Mesa Boogie, and that will give you artificial stereo. Or use the same amp on both sides and run one track through a chorus, or any variation.
That's not gonna give you good stereo though. That's like some terrible fucking advice here. Why is it so hard to play the same track twice? Why do you keep on trying to out-clever me? I mean, like you're failing miserably at it. Seriously, just play the fucking thing twice. It's not rocket science. All you gotta do is be able to play your fucking instrument. The way you guys go on and on and on about how awesome you are, this should be no problem whatsoever. Seriously, if you want to get a shitty stereo guitar sound, do what this guy is saying. If you want to get a big sound, you need spatial cues, and you're not going to get that by running the same track through a different amp and then panning them out. It just doesn't work like that because we're getting the same timing cue. We need the different timing to make it sound big. Can I say it any more clearly than that? Do you understand? Am I getting through to you? Good! Congratulations, you just made the dumbest comment of the week.
If we can barely hear the difference with pickup comparison videos, how the fuck are we ever going to hear a difference with Tonewoods? And the people who believe in Tonewoods will even admit that pickups do more to vary the sound in electric guitars than even Tonewood. Supersonic hearing is not their superpower. Confirmation bias is.
Hey AJ Feds, I hope you're paying attention because that was a smart comment.
Love your work, dude. Non-sequitur. I'm still working on my diet. You've been very inspiring in that regard, and was wondering if you still allow yourself many carbs.
Well, I did 3 weeks in Europe, going to Germany and Netherlands and Vienna and England, and carbs are definitely in Europe, that's for sure, whether it's German bakeries or Greg's in England. I'm sure every English guy watching this is like, oh fuck, you went to Greg's? Yeah, apparently that's the thing to do in England. It's very depressing, but somewhat tasty, I think. Anyway, point being is, yeah, it's very hard to do keto in Europe. In fact, I'd say it's mission fucking impossible, so I'm glad to be back in Canada. And yes, I still do reduced carbs. I'm going to probably go a little bit stronger in October. My wife's like, can we get Chinese food? Can we get Chinese food? I hate to deny her that. So, you know, I've been slipping a little bit, but I'm going to get back on the wagon in October and probably go a little bit stronger on it for the next few months and see how it goes. I got to start tracking that stuff again and do a video on it and see what my results are. Thanks for asking though, man. And if you're thinking about doing it, I'll tell you this, it's been a massive quality of life improvement for me. I've lost a lot of weight and I'm not angry all the time because my system isn't irritated from trying to process all this hyper refined garbage they call food here in North America.
I would like to see you record something other than metal. Metal is definitely a skill set you have and do it well, but if you ever do any other music in your studio, that's another thing completely. Having an ear for different guitar tones and getting those out of musicians mixed together is hard. Tones you wouldn't think of normal playing aren't what you need to know and use to track your ears in game in itself, and you're tracking two different guitars and a solo that cuts.
I think there was a question there. Let's put it this way. Yes, I've done many other genres, and the reason I like metal is because it's much more of a challenge than other genres. I've done a lot of Celtic and country stuff. Super easy to do, usually because the musicians are great, and we're not fighting for space in the mix because we don't have these massive distorted guitars taking up the entire frequency range. Much easier to work in, and that's my opinion anyway. Your mileage may vary.
This is one of the best videos you've ever made, dude. So much stellar information and the practical examples included to make this a video I'll definitely be referring to for some time. Here's a video request. Do the same thing for recording and mixing vocals. Take us through the vocal process from start to finish, recording, layering, editing, mixing. Cheers from Birmingham, the home of metal.
Ah, yes, Birmingham, more affectionately known as Mordor. I was just there with Adam Steele, and we did a really cool mini tour of England in a day. We started off in Burnley, went to go see Neve. We went down to Birmingham, and it was cool because we're driving through all these like suburbs, and it's like all these towns that Judas Priest had named off of where they're from and stuff. Places like Walsall and that kind of stuff. I'm like, cool. I remember reading about this years ago. And we visited the Laney guys in Birmingham. Wonderful people. They've got some really cool stuff. I just checked out one of their new solid state amps. Very cool. Definitely has an old school Priest kind of vibe to it, which I thought was really awesome. Then we went off to Oxford, which was pretty fucking amazing as well. And finally wound up in London that night. Of course, the video you were referring to was 13 things to avoid when recording guitar in your home studio. Glad you got some use out of that one, man. That was pretty in-depth. Had a lot of cool examples of things to avoid so you won't get a horrible sounding record. If you want to check that video out, you can follow that link right here. It's a nice deep dive into the whole process. And if you're just getting your feet wet with recording guitar, it can help save you a lot of grief. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to check out Spectre Digital and our amazing new Singularity bass library plugin. If you don't have a bass player or you don't have a bass guitar and you need some bass on, check it out. It's going to help you out an awful lot. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.